This is Ocean City, New Jersey, where the past and present blend seamlessly to create a unique coastal charm. Nestled along the picturesque shores of the Atlantic, nestled deep into Cape May County, Ocean City has been a beacon of summer joy and maritime history for over 140 years. From the multi-million-dollar mansions to the quaint, charming historic old homes, the two come together to create a unique tapestry of modernity and authenticity. Every corner of Ocean City tells a story, from the boardwalk to the bay. It's a place where history is not just a photograph, but is instead lived in. Ocean City, New Jersey is not just a picturesque beach town, but a living testament to American seaside culture and community. Founded in 1879, Ocean City began life as a quiet retreat for those seeking solace and recreation by the Atlantic. What started as a modest collection of cottages and old homes along the coast quickly transformed into a vibrant seaside town, attracting residents and tourists alike. The town's history is rich, woven with tales of growth, community, preservation, and resilience. As we explore Ocean City's rich history and enduring legacy, we invite you to join us as we explore how this seaside town has influenced American culture and continues to enchant visitors with the timeless appeal and charm of Ocean City, New Jersey, America's greatest family resort, a place where every wave carries a story and every sunset holds a memory.
When you walk into Plaza Place, you fall in love right away. This is going to sound a little hokey, but my favorite TV show is Andy Griffith show, Mayberry. And you have that feel. You have a neighborhood feel about it, and you have a historical feel. So you just know there's something special, the way the houses are and how they look, with all the tree-lined streets. It's a Norman Rockwell painting. It just is. And it's right here in Ocean City, and you kind of don't expect it, where there's 2 streets away are a bunch of duplexes. You know what I'm trying to say? You just step into something, you know you stepped into something different, and it just makes you stop and pause.
Like a lot of people felt like, oh, it's all gone. It's like, no. There's a lot still here. So what I want to capture tonight now is a little bit of your story. So I let anybody to chime in. I got a couple from Bert the other day when I was sitting on his porch, which were the fact that the number of speakeasies that were in that neighborhood in the 1920s.
You mean they're gone now?
No, they're on my porch.
They do a couple, but maybe I was mistaken.
And the various people of note that lived in that neighborhood. So here are the questions I had. You can jump in with your own answers to different questions, but things like what drew you to the neighborhood? What are your fondest memories in that neighborhood? What does the neighborhood mean to you? I mean, what does there? And then you know, if you could think 5 years in the future or 10 years in the future, what would that neighborhood look like? If you look at, First give us a listing of the houses and how quickly they by the middle of the 1920s or into 30s, you have 20, 30 houses already being built, and then the remainder get built. I'd say maybe 2/3 of the houses are pre-war, maybe, and then the other third comes in afterwards.
But how did Plaza Place get to this point of development pre-war? If we were to take a look at this original map of Ocean City from the year 1890, you can see there's nothing there. The ocean only ends up at Ocean Avenue. Flash forwards to 1903, where this changed. And for what reason? Hurricane Vagabond. The 1903 New Jersey hurricane, also known as the Vagabond Hurricane by the press of Atlantic City, is the first and only North Atlantic hurricane to make landfall in the state of New Jersey since records were beginning to be kept starting in 1851. Along the coast, 57 people died in this tragedy. In New Jersey, the hurricane caused heavy damage, particularly near the coast and in Atlantic City. Dozens of buildings were damaged or destroyed, and damage across the state totaled $8 million in 1903 money. The sand deposits from the hurricane blew sand onto Ocean City's coast, as you can see here with the 1909 map. According to this map, Atlantic Avenue is now present in Ocean City, and in the wake of this hurricane, the beach of sand that Plaza Place was built upon is now left there. When we fast forward to another updated map of the year 1945 after the Second World War, and as reflected on this map, you are able to see the development of Plaza Place well underway at this point.
So the life-saving station, which is on 4th, right?
Absolutely.
So when they would go out because a ship had wrecked, and they would find people, sailors who had not survived, they would bury them on the beach. So that's where they were buried. So if you're ever digging around in your garden and you think it's chicken bones, think again. So anyway, so the hurricane, as John described it to me, he says it came up and it basically sat, I guess, in a position where it was pulling sand from Lower and just whipping it into Ocean City, and that's what created most of the land for the houses. And then that land was targeted for development.
Hi, I'm Sneh Avichol. I'm a registered architect, and I'm also innkeeper of Scarborough Inn at 720 Ocean Avenue. And here we are on Plaza Place, which is one of my favorite streets in Ocean City. It's outside of the historic district, but against all odds, all of these houses on this little hidden gem of a street are original and date back at least 100 years. So we're gonna stroll up, and I'm gonna point out a few things that I really like about this street. Right behind me is it's a neighborhood garden. Well, it's a private garden, but it's kind of run like a neighborhood garden. So right behind me, one of the neighbors on Plaza Place, they have a garden full of local plantings, and he's always welcoming to people that walk by. He's very didactic in that he'll explain to you what he has going on back here, and this is a little reminiscent of community gardens, even though this is privately owned, but community gardens that spring up in certain neighborhoods and cities, especially East Village, which had a lot in Manhattan, had a lot of abandoned lots, and community gardens just sprung up, and they have this kind of look and feel. One thing that jumps out at me about this lot is that all the porches are pretty low to sidewalk level. It's only 3 or 4 steps up, and most places in Ocean City you'll have almost a full floor between the porch and the sidewalk, and what that does is it makes the front porch very extroverted. When you're hanging out on the porch, you really do engage with people on the sidewalk. And whereas you know, the converse of that is that building over there where all the balconies are a lot higher up. They're technically outdoor spaces, but you're not really engaging with people outside of your immediate family.
Right.
What I was saying about the porch is, I don't know, but I suspect that the porches being so low and so extroverted is a reason why this street, all the neighbors tend to know each other. You know, I've been coming up and down this street for a few years just to look at the houses, and I always find one neighbor who will chime in and tell me about the house I was looking at. The neighbor right there was pointing out the details on this house, the little holes in the gable right there are reminiscent of a birdhouse. Even though all these houses were built in a 20-year period between 1902 and 1920, they're really varied. There's no one style on this whole house that's kind of a little fantastical, like the birdhouse that we were just looking at. And then up the way there's a Spanish Revival house. This is one of the things about Victorian and Edwardian architecture, is that the Industrial Revolution was catching up to architecture. Architecture is always slow to the game. Usually the automotive industry, manufacturing industries, those are the ones that adopt technology first. But architecture is usually about 50 years late to the game. And they started using all these mass-produced items, incorporating cast iron, wrought iron into architecture, and architects just had this unlimited palette at their disposal. So even into the 1900s, they're still playing with all this new stuff that the other industries had for about 80 years. So they weren't limited to local materials, local building techniques. You have a house here that has kind of the makings of a flying buttress, because why not? And you can see just a nod to Gothic architecture with the pointed arch right there. We wouldn't call this Gothic, but you know, the architect was living his bliss. And of course you have a craftsman here, and I just really love the color palette.
Could you like elaborate on like what you mean by a craftsman's home?
So what makes this a craftsman home is the detailing on the columns that hold up the porch. I know it when I see it. So the arrangement of the windows above the porch right there. You know, they're square. This is something that you would have seen out west a lot in California. And that style is now making its way over to Ocean City, and you do see a few craftsmen this way. I'm kind of curious how these neighbors get along with the other neighbors, because now they don't have this lovely outdoor space to interact with people outside. But they do have a nice summer. And that is a house that was recently raised, R-A-I-S-E-D, not R-A-Z-E-D. And I think that's just that's an example of what you can do here. Because of, in the wake of Superstorm Sandy, any major renovation you do to your house, it has to include, if you're going to spend more than 50% the assessed value of your house, you have to elevate your house above where FEMA deemed the high water line, the flood elevation to be. So that unfortunately encourages a lot of homeowners to just demolish their house and start new, but thankfully this homeowner decided to actually elevate his house, and you know, it just shows what you can do. You couldn't tell that this was you couldn't tell that that house was actually a lot lower originally. Spanish architecture is popular in California and Florida. You only see it a handful of places in the mid-Atlantic, and it was really popular after World War I. And Grace Kelly's house, famously on 26th and Wesley, is a Spanish Revival style. But this here you can see from the corbels holding up the the eave and the terracotta roof tiles. You know, this is just in the spirit of this house, of this street where anything goes. Every house is completely different from each other, and that's the spirit of the times. They were experimenting with building technology. Well, they were experimenting with technologies that were available to anyone, and architecture finally joining in where manufacturing had already been for the past 80 years. So yeah, if in New Jersey, if you wanted a Spanish Mission house, yeah, go for it. Of course, they soon found out that stucco doesn't really do too well in this climate, because we have to worry about water getting behind the stucco and then freezing. So that's why it's so popular in California and Florida, but it's fallen out of favor up here. And this home here is the new kid on the block, but you know, it's respectful to the scale of the street. The porch is roughly at the same height, and it is an extroverted porch. You know, nowadays everybody's all about what you do in your backyard, but this street is very much about your front yard and engaging with your neighbors. And this, even though it has some stylistic trappings of this decade, the massing of this house is pretty timeless. And so yeah, this house is in 20 or 30 years, it'll be hard to pick this house out as the newcomer. So this home, you can tell that the architect really loved monastic architecture. You got these load-bearing arches, and they're super heavy and rustic, and they're actually doing their work. In the new construction, when you see an arch, the arch actually isn't holding anything up. In fact, if anything, it's kind of it's being supported by something else. But these heavy stones are doing all the work. You have a vaulted space right there for the carport, which is probably where you pulled your horse carriage 100 years ago. And the front door also has a really rustic load-bearing arch, and also on the chimney, the cornerstones are rough. So I don't know, it's just beautiful and kind of in the spirit of the street where people were just pulling styles and technologies from all over the world. And the streets in the shadow of Wonderland Pier, it's fitting that you see the Ferris wheel in the distance, because amusement park architecture, it's not that different from the architecture on this street, where it's a little fantastical, it's fun, and it's a little escapist. I think that's what's delightful about this street, Plaza Place here.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Pienegro Smith. I serve on the Ocean City Historical Preservation Commission and the new Friends of OCNJ History and Culture nonprofit. I'm sitting here with Keith Hartzell, and today we're going to talk about the Plaza Place neighborhood. Keith, could you tell us a little bit about why Plaza Place is so important to you and to Ocean City?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because when I run for office, I knock on doors. And the first time I ran for office in 2006, I was kind of shocked at some of these neighborhoods. They're old, they're historic. Some neighborhoods, you don't even think you're in Ocean City. Plaza Place is one of those. Outside of seeing the Ferris wheel, you'd almost think you're just in an old town somewhere. And I've gotten to know the people very well there, and they decided to do something I think is remarkable, which is they started their own association. They were concerned as a group of 40 residents about their homes and what would happen in the future. They like where they live, they like how it is. And they could see development starting to encroach in other neighborhoods and say, wait a minute, let's pull back, let's get a hold of the government, let's get a hold of a council person in the area, let's get a hold of the mayor, and declare this a neighborhood, and have regular meetings about our expectations of what we want to do with our neighborhood, what it should look like. And so I got involved. And right away, it's just a ton of fun, because they have meetings, but they also have social activities. We have all kinds of different parties and that type of thing. And all just to They're a cross-section of America.
I'm at 852 Plaza, which is the brick and stone place on Little Wayne, which is the little alley in Plaza. I've been there 18 years. I guess 2 years after June.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going. I've got married and now I have three little kids. My daughter Adeline's here with me. She's almost 9. I'll tell you a little bit of an interesting story about how my family came to Ocean City, and then I'll fast forward to the house and give you some interesting stories that I've heard over the years. So I'm third generation on the island. My grandparents came here in the 40s. My grandfather who was Robert Gill. He was a builder in town, built a lot of the gardens, almost 1,000 homes over the years. He was in World War II in the Pacific Theater, and my grandmother came down in 1946 and bought 2 lots on 34th Street and West Avenue for $75 a piece. And he came home from the war in 1947-48, and they came to Ocean City and they saw, oh my gosh, my wife bought a swamp. It was cattails and it was a dirt road on West Avenue, but that's what brought them here in the 40s. And then they had 2 children, one of which is my father, and he went through Ocean City here, and I graduated Ocean City as well. So I'm third generation on the island, and my kids are 4th generation.
And my family home is at the end of Plaza on Atlantic.
Okay.
So we used to walk the dog down Plaza and just always loved it, still do, yeah. And originally, our original home was 9th and Ocean, which is a guest home. And we had 7 bedrooms, and my mom and dad ran it. And in the winter, we all lived upstairs, and in summer, we all moved downstairs. So it was quite an experience for us. And when I walked in the house, when we were looking for homes, we were looking in the Riviera section, we were looking all over. And we walked in there, and I just felt at home, you know? And we bought it and haven't looked back, you know?
That's fantastic.
And I love the street. I mean, love the neighbors. It's all good stuff, you know? So.
For me, as an elected official, it's the greatest thing in the world, because we'll do just about anything to talk to a voter. That's our job, right? We want to do that. And when you can get 40 voters together, it's upwards to 80, depending on, you know, marriage and all that type of thing. When you get that many people together and get a sense of what they're looking for, that's just huge. And I've actually tried to tell folks in other neighborhoods to try to do the same thing. You know, we're sitting in the oldest church in Ocean City here, and look how beautiful it is. And we have to be cognizant of our history, and there's people now coming forward, like your group, saying, you know, we've got to do something. This development's everywhere. We're not against development, but we are for preservation.
House in 1923, and only our family has lived there. And I have a lovely picture of it with nothing on the right, but your house on the right.
Oh, we were there? Okay,
We've been
good.
there a long time. My father graduated from Ocean City High School, and grandparents here. So it's been a long time.
Which number house are you?
826.
826.
Well, do you want to see the picture?
Sure. Yeah.
It's the one I sent you that has like the Model T car. Wow.
When did your parents?
That's the Model T, right?
I'm 73.
Preservation. And there's a sharp line there. And we can't lose some of the things that we have. And we have folks that don't want to lose, okay? And we have folks that want to take it. That's kind of just where it's at. It's part of life. When development does hit, what we do want to do is make sure it matches the neighborhood. Development's fine. In times, it actually has to happen sometimes. Homes not necessarily historic, sometimes they're just old and tired. We all know what those homes are. But if a person is going to develop, shouldn't we be cognizant of everything else that's around them? And I really think that that's what Plaza Place's mission was, to make sure if there was any type of development, which really is highly unnecessary because the homes are family homes. And most people greatly improve the homes to begin with anyways. So if and when it does happen, does it match the neighborhood? Does it fit the neighborhood? Because everybody lives there because they fell in love with that neighborhood. They just didn't need a house in Ocean City. And you've talked to many of them, and a lot of your viewership will see some of the individual stories of how important that neighborhood is to them. Some of the people have been there generations. They all move there because they love that neighborhood.
But we have one home, and
And no, seriously, we would drive over from Marmora and to go to the rides.
West Ocean City.
And yeah. Anyway, so we would try, and he would be like, "Oh, yeah, they have free parking." So we would park on like kind of in front of our house on the other side,
Right.
which became the Thomas sisters' house, which I have a couple of things to tell you about that. But,
You know, I've moved places where the house looks nice, I bought it, but I'm not sure I was in love with the neighborhood the day I moved there, okay? Completely different feel. And that will come across in everything that you guys are doing, but it's gonna come across citywide. Because you're gonna hit neighborhoods where people say, no, this is my neighborhood. And I love it just the way it is.
One person had said, "Oh my God, I hate it. I hate Wonderland because the log flume blows water up. It's noisy and this and that." And I was kind of like, I don't know. After a while, I think I would really love to hear those noises in the neighborhood. Like, I'd like to hear the kids screaming. I'd like to hear all this stuff.
I live right behind it. Trust me, you don't hear it after 11 o'clock.
Right.
You could put a baby on our front lawn on Plaza Place. There's not a sound.
Right.
Because everybody who goes to the boardwalk, they're all running down the south end or the north end. They go away.
Right.
It's like literally at the latest is 11 o'clock. They used to close now. They don't do too good
Wait,
business.
do you find it as entertaining noise?
Yeah, well, I love it because I have a hot tub in the backyard. There's the first wheel. You watch the first wheel go around.
I think it's more entertaining when you hear like Saturday morning football because we're so close to the football. And when you hear the high school band going on during halftime, that's entertainment. That makes you feel
When
good.
they scored, you hear everybody
Yeah, seriously.
emphasize the smart development. And your neighborhoods should have a say in their neighborhood and what exists there and what doesn't. And that's what zoning's all about, by the way. Zoning and planning give the neighbors and the people in the town a voice. And that's really what your group's gonna do. And I do think it's gonna be very interesting to people watching this to realize, like I did, that there's all these other neighborhoods here. Some are historic, some are newer, but they're neighborhoods. I mean, if you go back in Ocean City Homes, Bay Landing, Marion Park, everybody kind of knew where the Gardens was, but because I lived down in this area. But there was neighborhoods I walked into and I'm like, wow, am I still at the shore? And there's families still living there.
I'm third generation on the island and my kids are fourth generation. My father had a long-standing relationship with Dorothea Robinson, who lived on Plaza, who I'm sure you knew well. She lived in the home until she was 93. So I came into the home in 2006. She was kind enough to leave the home to my family. My father took care of her for many years and was friendly with her for decades. And she had no immediate family. She was never married. Her and her mother bought the home in 1952. My understanding is they came to Ocean City from West Philadelphia. Her and her mother bought the home together. And you may know more about this than I do. But she was never married and lived there she traveled the world, Portugal, Asia. Many of her antiques and items are still in the home. She was an interesting lady. I'd gone there as a boy and been through the house, and I was like, wow, this place is amazing. And I never thought, I would actually end up living there. I would park in the driveway at times to go up to the boardwalk as a kid, or even as a young driver and a teenager. I thought I had this great parking place to go to the boardwalk.
My dad, Jack Janae, had retired from the Navy.
this is the house.
And
on the
my
northeast
parents
corner.
ended up owning the Scarborough
Yeah.
for
And we met you then.
15, 20 years.
Oh my God.
So my sister and I graduated Ocean City High School. We don't live there now. I live at 40th Street. But I'm in the Ocean City Old Homeowners Association Facebook page, and I'm with you all.
There you go.
Yay!
We drive down Plaza all the time, reminisce all our friends that
It's
we
wonderful the house is still
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a sailboat, like
Wow.
in 1980
Yes.
or 78 or something like
Yes,
that.
yeah.
You know, at one time it was a boarding
So
house.
many of them were.
And
In fact,
we died when we saw how dilapidated they were letting it get. And there is a full basement in that house. And my father was civil defense director at one point, and he said that is the highest corner in Ocean City, hence the full basement. And we had very little flooding down there. We
Why is
did
our
have
flood
some
insurance so much money?
That's our next meeting.
And there's families still living there, whether they be second homeowners or first homeowners, and you get that sense and that feel. And I know I've talked with people, especially Sherry Thompson, who's the trustee of the church, losing some neighborhood feel. In her neighborhood, you feel it. You saw a neighborhood 25, 30 years ago, and there's this, when you walk through, there's a starting a little bit sense of loss. There's still some year-round people there, and there's some of the feel, but it's not the feel that it was before. And we have to be cognizant of that. We have to be cognizant of protecting neighborhoods and people wanting to live in neighborhoods and live here year-round, as well as second homeowners. We're fine with second homeowners because they treat it, they're here sometimes 6, 7, 8 months, you know? So they treat it like it's their second home, but it's also their neighborhood. So, and again, all this should be really given to our tourists as well. Our tourists should be able to see all this and experience all this. And I think as time goes, that's what's gonna happen. People are gonna say, man, we've gotta ride our bikes through this area and that area, and look at these older homes. Churches like this church is gonna speak for 100 years plus. You know what I mean? And all the history that was in here and all the different things that happened in the town.
We only had 2 kids, and our kids were going to be off to college. So he brokered this deal. We bought from a patient and sold our house in Marmora to another patient.
We didn't even use a real.
And it was like, he said, if I pull this off, it's like, you know, the best thing I've ever done. So anyway, that's how we found our house. And then shortly thereafter.
And yours was a guest house too?
It was. And Marla Thomas told us when she visited us, when she came to your anniversary reunion, she said she used to sleep on the hearth when her mom rented out the rooms. And because they needed her room for a guest.
Did you say Marlo Thomas?
Well, these are also
Marla Adams. Did I say Thomas? I'm sorry, Adams. Marla Adams. And then she said her father was a, I don't forget what she's, people like, I don't know what they call him, but he was on the music pier. There was a little tower on top of the music pier where they would look for the enemy. And he would take her with, civil defense, with him to stay for his shift, to stand up there and look to search for, during the war. Yeah.
Came down in 1973. It was hard to get my dad to leave Philadelphia, a beautiful Victorian house. But when he saw Plaza Place, they decided that was the place for them. So,
which one was it? Which number?
It's 841.
Okay.
Next to the Thomases, who was our lovely neighbors for 50 years.
So you used them as
those 50 years.
that was your alarm system too?
They have a large
Anyway, when the house came with a guest house license, so obviously that was everybody's.
These are not boarding house licenses, by the way.
Guest house.
They're a guest house, so you're allowed to rent a room.
My parents ran a guest house, and just like your stories, we would come down in the summer because I was already graduated high school. And we would all be in the sun porch was where we could stay because my parents rented the rooms.
Right.
And people loved it there and came back every year.
We used to have a little sign out front.
A little sign, yes. Then we liked the street so much that my sister bought 860 Plaza Place, which is a very unique house. If anybody wants
the birdhouse.
The birdhouse, as Bert calls it, but the interior is really just the way it's always been. It's extremely unique. All the details in there. It's definitely worth seeing.
Keith, can you tell us what lessons can the City of Ocean City take away from the efforts of the Plaza Place Association, the people that own the homes on Plaza Place? What can the city learn from them as a group?
Well, I think the first thing is communication, okay? The ability to communicate with people and have people represent themselves. You know, you get that old thing, you can't fight City Hall. Well, you don't want to fight City Hall, but you want to get along with City Hall, and you want City Hall to know what you're up to. And I think as a town, we should encourage these types of things.
And then we bought it from my sister. We keep passing the houses around because we can't bear to leave Plaza Place. So the family is still there. I'm at my parents' house and family is at 860 and there's plenty of us that we can definitely enjoy.
What was your maiden name? What is your last name?
Moffat.
The little Westie.
We had
Mr. Magoo. Remember Mr. Magoo?
I remember.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
Mr.
Who would
Magoo.
Remember
Who
Mr.
would
Magoo?
I
Yeah.
forgot about him.
Yeah, so, and then the last great part of it, and the time has gone so fast, is that we all had kids, so there'd be 11 of the nieces and nephews between the two houses, and for the longest time, we were the noisy people on the street, going back and forth. Now we're the quiet retirees.
For, at least 10, 12 years before we purchased.
Right. Terrific.
And keep something in mind, that Wonderland was there when we were on Pella, right? Full view of it, the noise doesn't bother me at all. And where we're at now, of course, right next to Burke's, same thing, noise. Does not bother me at all. It doesn't bother my wife. My grandkids love it.
Yeah, that's what I said. I would think
How
it's fun.
quiet is it though in the wintertime? I mean, you get so used to the noise. What's it like?
It's very quiet in January, February. It's dead quiet.
And that's why I ask, because it's like we walk around in January, I'm like, I sort of miss the summer at that point.
Yeah, but it's nice looking forward to both seasons.
Yes, I know.
It's
I
kind of
know.
like we like the four pieces of it all.
Yeah.
And it was interesting during the wartime because you would sit on the beach and the planes nearby were practicing going over our beach. And then at the end of every day, you had to have gasoline in your garage in order to clean off all the tar that you got all over you every time you went in the ocean. Because there were so many U-boats at the end of our street and near the music pier. A lot of them, and of course they went down. The tar was a mess, but we went anyway. Yeah, we went anyway. And by the way, does anybody remember we did have a mailbox on Plaza Place? Because there were so many rooming houses, and they didn't have, they only had the major hotels. They didn't have anything else. And those poor people that came down for maybe 1 week, if it was raining, they were out of luck because they just had one bedroom and they had a bathroom and they could sit and write cards, go to the mailbox. It was right on the corner of Little Wayne.
Okay.
So it was nice. I wish we still had it, right?
When I say this is a gift, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, I mean it, because we'll do it, like I said, we'll do anything really to talk to voters. We should. And one of the ways I've always done it is when there's going to be a zoning change in your neighborhood, we have to contact everybody in 200 feet in a letter. I actually go knock on their door. I tell you all the meetings you can go to, how you can participate, and why do I do that? And I do it before the first reading of the ordinance because I want to know what the neighborhood thinks. And I kind of started doing that on my own, back when I got elected. And then when I saw Plaza Place actually make an association, I thought, well, this is great. I could do 40 homes in one shot, not knock on 40 doors. Not that I would mind knocking on 40 doors, but it's a matter of time. And I hope that groups like yours continue to grow. I hope people watch this and realize, hey, we have a neighborhood, let's get an association. Let's contact Keith Hartzell and find out, or your group, and find out, how's this work? How do you put an association together? What do you do? I mean, Plaza Place, they have elected officers, they have bylaws, they have some rules that they've done that, I mean, obviously they don't enforce them, but they try to keep to some rules. One of the ones that I kind of like is they don't put up any political signs. Well, that's fine. You're not putting up my competitor, you're not putting up mine, and who cares, right? It's kind of a nice thing. And they don't do that because they just feel like it kind of hurts the neighborhood a little bit. That's okay. I think it's a good idea if that's how they feel. So you get all that together with people, and now they're all friends too. I mean, how many times have you lived somewhere you really didn't know everyone? Well, now they're all friends. The social aspects are great. We always have to dress up as something, Margaritaville or something. Who knows? We had a Roaring 20s one and all kinds of stuff, And I'm not much of a dresser-upper, but my girlfriend makes me. But I think it's great because you have that social aspect as well as, the more official aspect of trying to get things done and get recognized. They had plaques put up in their neighborhood, so now their neighborhoods was recognized as right in the states, which you guys will go into heavily. And I just think the communities that are willing to do this, I'm just honored to be a small part of it with you guys that are willing to say this is what we want people to know. And obviously we're going to get people who criticize us, and we're going to get the other side of it, and that's okay. Because that's my job. My job is to try to blend all of it together to make sense for everybody. And I think when you get neighborhood input in a positive manner, it's much easier to make things work. Because sometimes there'll be things that you guys might want and other people don't, and we'll have to compromise. Who knows what that will look like? But we all should be willing to do that for the common goal of preserving our neighborhood the way we want to preserve it. There'll be different viewpoints at times, and that's okay. But generally speaking, especially with the social aspect, the more you get to know people and the more you do that, the barriers go away and actually compromise becomes a little bit easier. It really does. And I'm just, again, thrilled. This makes my job so much easier and so much more fun. And I really appreciate you taking the time today.